You ever make something and you screw it up and it makes you feel bad? Well, I discovered an amazing secret. Stop caring! What's good, people? Agent Jules reporting for duty. Today I want to spin ye a yarn as to how I stopped caring about making good art. And it all starts with a little tradition I have that involves 4chan, Easter, Playboy, and Wuya from Shaolin Showdown. Every year since 2016, I have been drawing and redrawing Easter, Playboy, Bunny, Wuya as a means of tracking my artistic growth. How did this tradition start? Well, it starts with 4chan. You see, 4chan has this lovely little recurring thread they do called a draw thread. Anonymous weirdos ask anonymous artists to draw comic or cartoon themed pictures involving whatever the requester thinks up. It can include things like character X and Y referencing a meme, or character X represented in out-of-place situation, or something else. Back in the day, I loved contributing my own art to these threads as a means of cutting my internet teeth in the wild, wild west that is 4chan. And I particularly loved 4chan specifically because I knew that they suffer no fools. If your art is good, you will be legitimately praised. If your art is mediocre, you will receive radio silence. And if your art is bad, Lord help thee, you will need it. After about a year or a year and a half of posting, my track record was average. But here's where things get juicy. You see, around Easter time, a particular theme tends to pop up during these draw threads, which includes either draw a requested waifu or a waifu of the artist's choice dressed as the Easter Playboy bunny. Now, I've fulfilled my fair share of requests before, but this would be the first time at taking a crack at a titillating character in a titillating outfit. At least for 4chan. I've done it before, but we'll get into that some other time. In my specific instance, I decided to choose my own personal waifu of Wuya from Shaolin Showdown. And thus, I created my first ever 2016 Playboy Bunny Wuya. And it was roasted. And it struck deep at my heart. A horrid realization in that moment was thrust upon me. My art was bad. So great was the pain of that discovery that I fell to my knees and lamented to the very gods. I am a failure. I have been cursed with stupid. And after that fateful day, I swore to the Lords on high that I would do whatever it took to improve my art and to show those fools who's boss around here. And so I dug deep into improving my craft. I looked up tutorials. I referenced real-world examples. I even did a model drawing workshop every week for a year. And don't get me wrong, I did technically get better. But my mind was consumed with ever-present negative questions. Is my art good enough? What would the others think? Am I a loser? But the next thing I knew, the following Easter draw thread returned for another year. And now was my chance! I drew my next Easter Playboy bunny pick, ready to prove to those doofuses who was the real master of the universe. And guess what? Nothing. Nada. Zilch. Radio silence. But here's the funny thing. You'd think that I would be raging mad at being snubbed like that after all of that piss and vinegar trying to get better. But I really wasn't. Okay, I do admit I was a little miffed at first. I mean, after all, I spent an entire year trying to improve my craft, and clearly it wasn't a bad picture because I mentioned before, 4chan loves roasting bad pictures. It was mediocre. They didn't say anything. And then at that moment, I kind of just sat there in my seat and stewed and said to myself, well, I thought it was good. And that was it. I thought it was good. Technically, I was correct because, as I mentioned, I wasn't being roasted, I was being ignored. So it went from bad to mediocre. So there was a difference. But the most important thing I realized in that moment is that I thought it was good. And so I continued drawing and continued the Bunny Wuya tradition. And I noticed improvement over the years. Furthermore, for your eyes only, allow me to introduce you to the latest entry of the Bunny Wooya collection, created before your very eyes. This pick right here, it's not the best I've ever made. It's not the best color. It's not the flashiest. It's not the most anatomically correct. But I really enjoyed making it. And if you enjoyed this video, I suggest you tickle the like button. But what does that mean to you? Well, some of you may actually be visual artists and are absolutely concerned with making the visual side be better. And some of you may not be artists at all, but I'm willing to bet cold hard cash there is some kind of skill set you do want to be better at. I would like to show you a clip of someone who I follow because I believe that he takes the thesis of what I'm trying to say here and puts it much more eloquently.
If you think about outcome, it will sabotage your ability to perform. And the probability of achieving the outcome you desire will increase once you let go of the need to have it.
That individual right there is Pat Mac. No, not Matt Pat, Pat Mac, Patrick McNamara. The dude is a former Delta Force Spec Ops guy, so his overall work may not be your specific bag, but I believe that what he had to say in that clip is universal. I believe that those tortuous days I spent worrying about what other people think was because I was worried about the outcome of my art and not the performance. Now, I find when I just focus on performing art, I not only draw better more consistently, I enjoy the process and end up drawing more as a natural result. So I would like for you to do something. The next time you're doing your thing, whether it's drawing or cooking or boxing, are you worried about getting the perfect cake? Or maybe you want to win your next fight or draw that next pretty picture? Is it making you sweat bullets? Are you worrying about the outcome? Or are you in the groove? You know what I mean by the groove, where everything just feels right. All those lines come out smooth, them jabs come out smooth, the icing comes out smooth, whatever it is. Look, if you truly desire to be better, I trust you that you know how to look for the technical side of improving. I am just wondering if you're focusing mentally, and I guess emotionally, on the outcome or the performance. And if you do start focusing more on the performance and not the outcome, do you find that you're no longer caring about being good or if others perceive you as good? And if you do or do not, please let me know in the comments. And to think this whole thing started with 4chan. You know, I wonder if I should go back to 4chan, do a draw thread, do a request, just for old time's sake. Whoa, we'll leave that thought for another day. But in the meantime, I'm really glad that you stuck around and spent this time with me. By the way, if you want to know the real secret as to how I do my speed paints in technical detail, I actually made a video about it right here. But until then, I hope you all stick around, and until next time, of course, deuces.